Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to a Tuesday edition of the Mark Moses Show, only right here on Sports Radio 107.9 FM, 1560 AM, and anywhere you listen online and podcast. Let's get right into it. I did not expect 72 hours ago that this would be my number one story as of yesterday and of this afternoon. But you got to go over the latest on Tyreek Hill with the Miami Dolphins. How this story is getting more interesting by the minute. We reported yesterday, we all knew about it, happened Sunday morning, about 3 hours before kickoff between the Dolphins and the Jaguars, where Tyreek Hill was pulled over by Miami police, and he was taken from his vehicle. He was detained. He got 2 citations, reckless driving and no seatbelt, and then went to the stadium. That's what we knew. That's what we heard of. There were photos. There was some video, kind of. And then there was what he said, what the police said, all that stuff. That's what we knew as of yesterday. Well, when I got home last night, I made some dinner. I got on the couch. I was relaxing, talking to friends, texting people. It was just kind of a calm, easy Monday night. And I was getting ready for the game on Monday Night Football, premier first game of the season on Monday Night Football, where it was going to be the Niners and the Jets. And the game starts. And all of a sudden, and you can see this on the video feed, on my phone, I start getting text messages from multiple people in the industry, football fans, buddies, even on social media. I start getting messages. Hey, have you seen this video? Have you seen it? Did you see it with your own eyes? I'm like, what video? What are you talking about? They're like, the police body cam from Sunday of what happened with the traffic stop between Miami-Dade Police and Dolphins star wide receiver Tyreek Hill. I was like, no. So the game's on my big screen, but I could care less what's going on the television screen. I could care less because on my phone, I am seeing multiple videos of everyone starting to post the actual body cam from the police officers of what happened Sunday morning there in Miami. It is wild to watch. Wild. Like, how is this real? And the guy, I wrote down his name here. All right, Andy Slater, who does radio there in South Florida, he was the first person on Twitter to post the video. It's the body cam footage from the police department. And it was interesting because Monday, I know they released a statement saying, we're going to have an investigation, then we'll release it. Well, that didn't take long. Less than, I don't know, what would you say, 24 hours? They released it to the public, to the media, and everyone saw it. And what's the cliche is a picture's worth 1,000 words. Watching this video, which is about, 2 minutes long, maybe 3 minutes long, it was more interesting and more fascinating to watch than anything I saw on Monday Night Football. That game was boring compared to what I was seeing on my phone. Yeah, it was. The video footage, the body cam footage, was more interesting than anything I saw on the actual big screen TV last night. Fascinating. And if you want my gut reaction, and again, picture's worth 1,000 words. My gut reaction, everyone's in the wrong. Everyone's to blame. It de-escalated too quickly. It didn't have to. I'd go back and forth. I went to bed thinking about this. I got up this morning thinking about this. I went to lunch with my coworkers, and the whole time I'm there, I'm thinking about this story in the back of my head. It's so crazy, you can't believe it's real. And it's what I brought up yesterday. This happened to Scotty Scheffler earlier in the year, where he was driving to that tournament and got pulled over, and then he got arrested by the local area police. Went to the jail, got released, then played golf that afternoon. What? And I remember being on the air that Friday. Remember, it was a Friday afternoon. And I couldn't believe it. You can go to my podcast page. You can look up that audio. It's me for 15 minutes going, how did this happen? What is going on here? And that's how I kind of feel about this Tyreek Hill thing. How did it get to that? I don't understand. There's so many questions when you watch the video where it's like, Why were there 4 or 5 police motorcycle people if it's a regular traffic stop? Why? Why are there that many police officers? Why did that happen? Because are they all getting ready? I know they said it was about 3 hours before kickoff. Was that because they were starting to do security and that, are they getting towards the stadium? Is it one of those things? That's what I don't understand. And honestly, if you've been to Miami, if you've been to South Florida, there are a lot of sports cars driving around. So you can't be like, oh, well, this is kind of weird seeing this, I don't know, maybe $200,000 vehicle. No. If you've been to Miami, Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, heck, there are parts of Brevard County I drive around and you see extremely expensive sports cars driving around. Hell, I see Tesla trucks all over Brevard County. That's not a cheap vehicle either. It's not. But it's funny where he gets pulled over, and it escalated quickly when you watch this. It's one thing to read the transcript. It's one thing to read people, oh, well, here's what happened. When you see it with your own eyes, that's where it's shocking. And again, this is my official statement. This is my show. I think everyone's in the wrong here. Everyone. It's ridiculous. Tyreek Hill should never have rolled up his windows. He never should have done that. License registration, just chill out, calm down. But he had the tinted windows. He did. And the police said, put them down. And he was not listening. He was not cooperative. He wasn't. He was not. It's that simple. He's not wearing a seatbelt. I mean, it's ridiculous. Look, drive the speed limit, wear your seatbelt. If you get pulled over, listen to what the police officer has to say. If he says, hey, show me license and registration, you can't be like, oh, well, I'll do that 3 days. No. License and registration. Give it to them. And if they say roll down the window, roll down the window. Just do what they say, get the ticket, smile, and keep driving. Then you wouldn't have had this problem, right? Now, the police officers, they're like, all right, roll down the window. And then all of a sudden, they open the door and they drag him out of there, right? And you could take either side in this, but again, I don't think Tyreek Hill was I don't think he was doing the right thing. I think he should have been smarter about this, done what the police said, taken the ticket and gone, right? But the police at the same time, they drag him out of the car. And then there's one point, he's handcuffed, and the police officer puts him in a chokehold. Why? Why are you doing that? That's why it goes both ways here. It really does. Then Cleese Campbell, his teammate, sees him. He drives, I don't know, what would you say, 100 feet? I don't even know what would you, I'm not good at the numbering of distance, if you want to put it that way. All right, here's how I can do it. He's probably, 10 or 15 yards down the field. All right, that's a better way of doing it. He gets out of the car. And remember, this dude is 6'8". I have stood by him on the sidelines. He is a giant of a man. And the police officer is like, hey, you can't park here. Get back in your vehicle. And Campbell, who they say, there are multiple stories I'm reading, is one of the nicest men you will ever meet and is a former NFL Man of the Year award and does multiple charity works. And his teammates are shocked that this happened to him. But at the same time, the police said, get back in your vehicle. The 2 Dolphins players in this situation were not listening to the police. Not one bit. But at the same time, I think the police took it too far. This is the number one story. It is. And it's shocking that it wasn't worse. But these 2 guys then went to the stadium and helped the Dolphins win a football game. Wild. The world we live in. The fact that we have the footage, the video footage, and we saw that last night. It's just, I can't get over it. That video on Twitter of the police body cam has 44 million views as of this afternoon. 44 million people saw that. The only thing that makes it interesting is tonight, like maybe this helps Tyreek Hill and the local police department, is you got the presidential debate tonight between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. So that will just, this is probably maybe the number one story, not just in sports, But maybe if you're listening to, news talk radio or you're watching television for cable news, I bet you a lot of people are talking about this story today. Again, 44 million people have seen that video. So you can't be like, oh, well, it's not that big of a story. Oh, it is. But you have that presidential debate tonight. So this will probably, by 9 o'clock Eastern tonight, no one's really going to be talking about this story. But what is this? How does this happen? And I know Drew Rosenhaus, the agent for Tyreek Hill, what a shocker there. He's on Dan Le Batard earlier today, and he's saying, this cop should be fired. This should be this. Like, I get it. He's standing up for his representation, his client. I get that, right? But it shouldn't have come to this. This is ridiculous. It is. Here's the story I'm going to tell you. This is a story. I thought about that this morning. The last time here in Brevard County, I got the summons to be a juror, juror duty here in Brevard. You go to the courthouse in Vieira. So they're doing jury selection, and I'm up there. That's right. They're going to decide, should I be a juror in this case that's going to be coming up? And at the time, the defense, it was I think there was a woman here in Brevard County where she was at a local area establishment bar, and she got into an altercation with police officers. She really did. And she put her hands on them. I think something happened. She got arrested. One of those blah, 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 that type of things. And I always think about this in that situation where my first job out of college, I lived in a small town in Iowa. And it was about a town of about 25,000 people. It was small. It was named Marshalltown, Iowa. It's by Des Moines and Ames, Iowa, where Iowa State University is. It's kind of a triangle. They're all right by each other. That was my first job. Small town. 25,000 people live there. So anyone who's like, oh, man, Palm Bay's boring. It's so small. No, Palm Bay is big, and there are things to do in Palm Bay that are fun to do. I lived in a real small town. Real small. And we'd have some local area bars. And, dude, it was right out of Roadhouse. If you've ever seen Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, yeah, I saw those in real time. I was at a table with a buddy once on a Friday night. We're getting a beer after work, and I saw another guy throw someone onto our table, broke the table, then tackled the guy. Then I'd say 5 or 6 guys, a brawl broke out. I've seen that in person. I saw another guy jump over the bar, punch a guy. Knives have come out. I have seen some crazy you-know-what in my life when I lived in Iowa. It was a very nice town. But on a Friday, Saturday night, you had to be very careful with some of the bars that I would go to. I know if my mother's listening, she's like, Mark, why were you in these bars? And I always remember this. There's this one brawl that I saw in person. And all of a sudden, one of the idiots there who's been fighting all night, been drinking, it's a true story, he put his hands on a police officer. And the cop's like, well, that's the end of you. He took a swing and tried to grab a police officer. It's over. You're done. The guy got arrested. He tried to attack a police officer. You're not supposed to do that. He went straight to jail. And I always think about that. And I bring that back to when they were doing jury selection. And I knew about the case. And the defense, what you do is the defense, they're trying to see if you'd be good to be part of their 12-man jury. So they're asking me questions. All right, Mark. And this is what I said in court. I said, all right, Mr. Moses, let's say there's an altercation and, someone bumps into you at a bar establishment. And let's say one of those is a police officer. And I blurted out, this was in Vieira at the courthouse in front of a judge right there in court. And I blurted out, look, there's one rule I know, and I learned it when I lived in Iowa. Do not put your hands on a police officer under any circumstance, especially when you're in a bar, restaurant. You can be friendly with them. You can talk to them. Don't put your hands on them. The minute I said that, the judge starts laughing, right? She starts laughing. And the defense is like, well, I'm sorry, you've been excused. That was the end of me, all right? That's exactly what I said. And they're like, I'm sorry, Mr. Moses, you can leave. And I was like, yes! Ha, ha, ha. You know what I did also? So I could have went back to work. I could have done that. I've never told anyone this story. I could have gone back to work. I said, screw it. Came here all day, Work knows where I'm at. So I went to the movies at Avenue Vieira, and I saw Deadpool with Ryan Reynolds. This was 2016. Not many people know that story. Now you know that story. So I bring that back all the way to what happened Sunday. Look, dude, if you get pulled over, look, just comply with the police officers. They're trying to do their job. You're trying to do your job. That's all it needs to do. Tyreek Hill, honestly, he comes across as a guy that gets pulled over all the time. And he's like, whatever, I'm Tyreek Hill, blah, blah, blah. That's what it looks like to me. It just appears that way. You get pulled over, whatever. Come on, give me my ticket, let's go. I got to get to the stadium. He runs fast. He is paid to be the cheetah, to score touchdowns and live that lifestyle, to be fast. And there's a feeling where, hey, if you're getting pulled over, how fast are you going? How fast are you going in this situation? Look, dude, here in Melbourne, I take Wickham Road every day, north-south, to get here to the Oaks Plaza to broadcast in beautiful Melbourne, Florida. Even though there are days they tell me I'm in West Melbourne doing this show, but that's another story. I've seen people speeding like crazy on Wickham Road. Don't even know how that's possible, but I've seen it happen. Don't get it. I'm on 95, north-south. I've seen people, like usually, what do you do on 95? So the speed limit's 70. People are usually going 80 miles an hour. I have seen people on there, I swear, have gone 120 miles an hour. I've seen them going 140. I've seen them going 160 miles an hour. It is insane. Hell, the most dangerous is when you leave the Daytona International Speedway after the Daytona 500, where people have been watching people go 200 miles an hour for 5 straight hours. They get back in their car, they think they're Dale Earnhardt, and they go south on 95, and they're going 195 miles an hour. I've seen it all. I have. It is wild. If you're Tyreek Hill, just do what the police say. Go on your way. And to the police, the things you saw in that video, some of that was not cool. It was not. Do I think people should lose their jobs over everything? No. But you can't put the guy in the chokehold after a while. You can't do that. It is wild. And you know what's crazy about all this? Dolphins won the game. Thanks, Jaguars. And the Dolphins, today's Tuesday, they're playing 2 days from now. They have the Buffalo Bills on the slate for Thursday Night Football. Well, you know when you get to that pregame, it's going to be nonstop about Tyreek Hill. It's going to be nonstop. And I know Jim Rome was just talking about this, where Hill is going to talk to the media tomorrow as well with the latest update. It is just a wild story. Again, 44 million people at this hour have seen that video, the police body cam of what happened on Sunday morning there in Miami. Or Miami Gardens, whatever you want to call it. It's a wild story. It really is. I think everyone's at fault in that. I'm not taking, they're wrong and they're innocent. No. That did not have to happen. But it did. And it's sad. It is wild. And the Niners are really good. By the way, in case you don't know, they're really, really good. And if I'm going to make my picks right now after 1 week, even though we play a 17-game schedule, who are the 2 best teams in football? It's the 2 teams that just met in the Super Bowl this past February. It's Kansas City and it's San Francisco. Those are my 2 top teams. And everyone else, they're just going to try to make the playoffs, unless you're for Carolina. So that's the latest on that. We'll go to break. We'll talk high school football. We will talk college with the Gators. We will talk about Tyreek Hill and what happened with the Dolphins on Sunday with my good friend Alan Slaughterzinski, Brevard Sports Network. He'll join us next. And yes, welcome to a Tuesday edition of my show.
This is Jim Rome with your Rome Report.